Hello, friends. Welcome inside an all-new edition of Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. I write for the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On 3. We're about to be live from Swayze Field where Brad Logan, my co-host of Talk of Champions, is talking to Mike Bianco and coaches and over there at Swayze Field to get you ready for the Auburn Super Regional. Ole Miss and Auburn play this weekend, a 3-game set if needed, to see who goes to Omaha. We're going to talk all about it. Got Michael Katz of the Daily Journal coming up in just a second. Real quick, some house cleaning stuff before we get started here. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, review Talk of Champions in iTunes. And when you do, or wherever you get your podcast, it could be Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast, search Talk of Champions, subscribe, rate, review. And when you leave a review, make sure it's 5 stars no matter what you say. Say what you want to. It can be, Ben, you talk too much, stop interrupting. Brad, your hair's too spiky, whatever it might be. But make sure it's 5 stars. That would really help us out. Also, this QR code on my screen, on your screen, not mine, well, mine too, but on your screen right now is for the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On 3. Sign up today as a new member, scan it, and sign up as a new member for half off an annual subscription. We'd love to have you at the Ole Miss Spirit. If you haven't tried us out, it's the perfect time to do so. Again, half off an annual subscription. We got stories up right now about Keegan Croucher, who showed out the 4-star Ole Miss quarterback commitment in 2027. Absolutely showed out at the Elite 11. Is he in store for a 5th star potentially? Ole Miss is hot on the recruiting trail. Pete Golding and them. Also a great story with Pete Golding by Chris Lowe of On 3, national columnist, in regards to all the tampering stuff and Lane's comments, and Pete was very forthcoming. All of it at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, an affiliate of On 3. Just scan this QR code as a new member and try us out. Half off an annual subscription. Yes, Brandon Tyler in the chat. Keywan is on the cover of the new NCAA 27 college football game. An absolutely, killer development for him, man. Congratulations to him. The NCAA cost Trinidad Chambliss a chance at the cover with all of their stuff. But Keywan gets on the cover. He's one of only 3 players who are on the cover of NCAA Football 27. Both covers, because there's the cover with Kurt Signetti and some mascots and players, and there's one with just 3 players, Malachi Tony from Miami being another, and Dante Moore, quarterback from Oregon, being the other. But Keywan Lacey, yes, he's a cover athlete for College Football 27. Congrats to him. It's a big accomplishment, something you should be very proud of. And there was some behind-the-scenes action that Ole Miss ran from his shoot to be named not a Heisman, but I want to say a Heisman. There's going to be a Heisman campaign. There's going to be a Heisman campaign for Keywan, for Trinidad as well. But here's some behind-the-scenes looks from Los Angeles, from Ole Miss Sports. There's the Belta stuff. There's Mike the Tiger from LSU. And I love how Keywan does. He just brushes them off. No high fives, no nothing. He's trying to get him to do the Belta ass with him. He won't do it. But this, congratulations to Keywan. This is a big deal. One thing that I wanted to touch on, because this, late last year, when there's all this discussion about will Keywan follow LSU to LSU, if Keywan would follow Lane Kiffin to LSU, there's this talk about how he was disappointed in the lack of notoriety that he was getting. And one thing that we talked about here on Talk of Champions, speaking of Keywan, one thing we were talking about here on Talk of Champions was how that's the head coach's job, to really pub these guys up. And because the Ole Miss Media Relations Department and the media team, they've done their part. But now to see Keywan get paid, stay at Ole Miss, and now get all the recognition that he rightfully deserved, it's a cool thing to see. So congratulations to Keywan Lacey. He is on the cover of College Football 27. It's a big accomplishment. I know I'll be playing. I'm still playing 26. I'm in like 2041 in my dynasty. So Keywan Lacey, he is leading the way. And for a guy, there's a lot of questions about his future, like not even that many months ago, only a few months ago. And now here he is. He and Trinidad Chambliss is like the faces of Ole Miss football going into 2026, and cue up the Heisman campaign. Same thing with Trinidad Chambliss. So congratulations to him, man. That's a really cool thing, and I wanted to shout him out first. We're going to hear from our sponsors as well before we jump to Brad Logan and Michael Katz talking about the Auburn Super Regional. Ole Miss and Auburn are playing this weekend. Game times were announced today. You can make sure I got them up for you. Hold on. Yep, here they are. Ole Miss and Auburn, the Super Regional on Friday. The game is 7 p.m. Central Time, with Game 2 set for Saturday, June 6th at 4 p.m. First pitch for the if necessary Game 3 on Sunday will be decided at a later date. Who all is going out? Are y'all going to be there? I know Jake Thompson will be there for us for the Ole Miss Spirit. OleMissSpirit.com affiliate on 3. We'll have full coverage. And Brad Logan is at Swayze Field right now talking to Mike Bianco and players and whoever he gets. But before we get to him, let's hear from our sponsors because it's going to be a full hour. And then we're going to get to Michael Katz of the Daily Journal to set the stage for this big super regional. The first super regional for Ole Miss since 2022, came so close to hosting the first super since 2009. Milwaukee couldn't get it done against host Auburn. So they're going to Auburn, but not particularly long drive at all. And I was looking at the whole bracket field and the whole setup too. And man, Ole Miss has got a pretty good road on their side of the bracket in the Morgantown super regional. West Virginia, like I'm trying to look, West Virginia, Troy, Little Rock, North Carolina. Yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty good side of the bracket, and it would be interesting in Omaha. They could face potentially Mississippi State. How fun would that be? Everybody show up from Oxford and Starkville, show up in Omaha for Ole Miss, Mississippi State. Now, here's the problem. Ole Miss doesn't beat Mississippi State in baseball. They just don't. But if it were to happen, what a spectacle it could potentially be. We'll talk more about it with Brad Logan here shortly. Let's hear from our sponsors, including Riverland Roofing, Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford, the Hearn Law Firm, Game Day Haircuts, so many that power everything we do here at Talk of Champions and a lot of what we do at the Ole Miss Spirit. And then we'll come back and listen to Brad Logan and Michael Katz break down the Auburn Regional that Ole Miss will be playing in this weekend. And then we're going to go live to Brad from Swayze Field. This is Talk of Champions.
Homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-97 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Hey, Rebels, your truck is here. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford presents the all-new Ram Rebel. It's Ram, the Rebel way. Send an unmistakable signal. Rebel 24/7. Ram Rebel from your friend in the car business. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Oxford.
Come by, let's be friends. I'm Warrior Philip Hearn. Raising my family here in Mississippi, I've tried to teach my kids to help others. I learned that from my parents. And as a Mississippi lawyer, I want to help you too. If you're hurt in a traffic accident, 18-wheeler wreck, or have insurance trouble, call 601-720-3541. That's my cell. You call, I'll answer. Let's get started. Make your first call to the Hearn Law Firm today.
Start my weekend.
Own your day on the Network for Connected Living. There's more to see. C-Spire. Customer inspired.
And welcome in, everybody. Alongside Michael Katz as it's Ole Miss in Super Regional play. That's going to happen, of course, in Auburn, Alabama. And we're excited to talk about the season up until this point. And Michael, appreciate you jumping on for a few minutes today. It's been quite a wild ride for sure.
Yeah, it's never a straight path with Ole Miss baseball, but especially this past weekend, there were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of very long games, but I think Ole Miss has to be feeling pretty good right now.
There are a lot of stories, and then we'll get to some of those. I want to start on the mound, and it feels like this team has kind of went by the way of its pitching staff. And oddly enough, Michael, it's not because it's been dominating. It's just been people have kind of played their role. And you look at Will Libbert, the way he came in, the other night against Arizona State and kind of, close them down. You can look at Hunter Elliott and his roller coaster, Cade Townsend and his roller coaster, but Taylor Rabe, not much for a roller coaster. He was really, really good and has been good all year, but was really good the other night.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the rotation is going to look like over this next week, but I think that the odds are if I were a betting man, Hunter Elliott seems to still be the guy on Fridays, but I don't think there's any denying that Taylor Rabe has been their best starting pitch over the last month and a half or 2 months. He's been dominant. He doesn't walk people. The stuff is electric. He's just been in complete control on the mound. I mean, he has looked like he looks like an SEC ace. And I know Cade Townsend has had his moments this year. I mean, he's the guy who everyone's talking about being the first round pick. And, it was a little bit of a struggle for him a couple days ago, but he made it through. Only 3 earned runs. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. This is against one of the best offenses in the country. And then Hunter Elliott, of course, a little bit up and down, but he's still a guy who's playing a lot of big games. So, yeah, right now Taylor Rabe looks like he is probably pitching the best of those 3. But, man, when you get to this time of year, when you have 3 guys who you feel on a given night can be a quote-unquote Friday guy, you're going to be dangerous. And then you put in that bullpen. I mean, Hudson Calhoun was an absolute animal over his given what he had to do. JP Robertson and Will Libbert, I mean, man, he might be the MVP with the way that he had to come in and, pitch the way he did in that last game. Walker Hooks has been great all year. I found the stat yesterday. It was 17 innings pitched in the regional, and they only gave up 4 earned runs. And again, this is largely against an Arizona State team that was putting up video game numbers all year. So just really impressive job by the pitching staff all around. I know that were there a couple home runs in there that maybe, sent games a little bit longer than Ole Miss fans would have liked, probably. But I think all things considered, Ole Miss has to feel really, really good about the pitching situation.
Mike Bianco said in the postgame press conference that he had to eat a little crow. And what he meant by that is they just did not play well, but they figured out a way to win. And, you have to have a little magic in a season like we're talking about. And, for a team that's kind of been through some adversity, specifically on the mound, and in the line, we'll get to the lineup in a moment. But he talked about people like Will Libbert, who has had his ups and downs from the plate. And for him to come in and for them to not play as well defensively, just flat didn't play as well as it needed to, finding a way to win, that's kind of what you have to have in it this late in the year when you're playing with the top 16 teams in the country.
Yeah, I mean, it's I watch a lot of these broadcasts, and the thing that comes up in like every single broadcast is this time of year. There's always going to be someone who you didn't expect, or people you didn't expect that do something special, right? This last weekend, Will Libbert was a guy who, let's be honest, has not lived up to maybe what we thought he was going to be. Or what was expected of him, and he comes out and really gives the performance of the season. I think you're going to need a lot of guys like that. I mean, Braden Randall, a guy who I'm sure is not having the type of season that he would have liked, and here he is, walks it off, and it was great in the regional as well. So I think that. It is. I think every great team has a little bit of. I hate to use the term luck, but things sometimes just go right for really good teams, and sometimes you can't explain it, even if it doesn't make sense on paper. And this Ole Miss team, they have been through a lot. I mean, they played that gauntlet of a schedule. They dealt with some injuries. They dealt with some inconsistencies. They probably lost some games in the regular season that they shouldn't have. That SEC schedule got them a couple times, but I think this is the type of team with the type of leadership that if you make it through those tough times, you're going to be okay when the times start to get tougher later, because they know how to get through it, and they're not going to be fazed by bad moments. I mean, when you've got Judd and Will Furness and Hunter Elliott and all of these guys who have seen pretty much everything. I mean, this isn't a team that's going to be phased. And so I think when you combine all those things, I think Ole Miss has to be feeling pretty good.
When you look at a season in totality, you follow this team, you've covered this team the entire year, you've seen the ups, you've seen the downs. You can kind of pinpoint a couple of things that have kind of galvanized the team and kind of gotten it where it needed to get to. To me, the 6th inning against Nebraska is one that will go down in history. And especially if we look back and let's just hypothetically say that Ole Miss beats Auburn and they head to Omaha and win a game or two, whatever, and have a great year, which has already been, in my opinion, a great year because I didn't anticipate this team getting to a super regional. If you look back on this team, I think the 6th inning to me, Michael, is a moment you can kind of pinpoint and say, hey, that's where it kind of turned. This may be special.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's so many points in a season where it can all sort of fall apart or seem like it falls apart. And, maybe in other years, maybe not last year, but the years before, a couple years before, that is a moment. And obviously Ole Miss wasn't in the tournament those years, but I mean, contextually speaking, might have been a moment where Ole Miss, it all kind of unravels there. To be able to do what they did in that 6th inning and get out of it, and again, keep their lead where it was. It's again, I think it speaks to this team just being unrattleable. I don't know if that's a word, but we think of Hunter Elliott as being the guy who gets himself out of the jams, right? Because he works himself into some jams. But they've got a lot of guys that just don't get phased by tough situations. And Taylor Abe, for all the great stuff he has, even if he gets in a bad situation, just because the stuff is good doesn't mean he's going to get out of it. But he did. And so I think, again, there's just there's obviously a lot of talent on this team, but there's a lot of mental toughness too. And I think that we saw that again, and even, in the extra inning games. I think it takes a special team to come through in those games, especially, in that, I think the first one, they were up in that game, and then the 2-run home run happened and they went to extras. I mean, that's a game where, you lost all the momentum. I mean, there's a lot of teams would have fallen apart then, but they didn't. I think this is a really mentally tough team.
I was watching the team in Tuscaloosa, and at one point you could see that Alabama had kind of taken a bit of a lead, and it was 3-0, 4-0. But the team, it was interesting. Dom Decker, for people that have watched this team and have watched the team in between innings like you have, Dom Decker will come to the top of the dugout. Will Furniss will, obviously he gets a ball coming in for warm-up for the next inning, puts it in his glove. Dom Decker comes up, waits on Will Furniss, who waits on Tristan Becerra. They walk out together, stand on third base, get a ball or two. Becerra goes to right. Dom eventually scoots to second, and Will starts the brief infield warm-up in between innings. Now, somebody say, why in the world are you talking about that? Well, to me, it doesn't matter if they're leading 10-0 or they're down 10-0. It's a methodical movement. You watch Mike Bianco during the games. He, to borrow a phrase from Chris Beard, never get too high, never get too low. And to me, I think this has benefited Ole Miss because so many negatives have happened about having an opportunity to host a regional in Oxford. We've already been through all of that. The game against Mississippi State on Friday, the Arkansas game to where they could win the series, the Georgia game on Saturday, the extra innings that they could not win, and, of course, that big third game against Alabama. I do think mental toughness is a key component of this. I'm going to ask you this, Michael. How much has leadership played a role in this mental toughness and having players like, you talked about him, Hunter Elliott, we've talked about Will Furniss, Juddy Udemark, Austin Fawley. It feels like this is it's kind of cliche, but leadership has proven, I think, to add to that mental stability of this team.
For sure. And I think that this is a team that, again, because they've seen so much, I think they can stay committed to their process. Like their process oriented, right? Like you brought up, like even when things aren't going great, they're going to do the same sorts of things. They're going to do their routine because I think they honestly feel like they're never out of a game. And I think this year has proven that, again, that Texas game where Tristan Bissetta hit the grand slam, against Florida when they couldn't get anything going and Judd hits that home run. Like, there are games when it looks like it's just never going to happen, and then it does. And so I think that this team, they know what they are. They know what they can do. They have seen everything. Mike Bianco has seen everything. I mean, he's not a guy who is going to get rattled by any of this. And so I think that, the highs and lows, that's never going to be a thing that gets to a Mike Bianco team, because he is a guy who has seen it all. And I think that allows them to stay committed to their process. And is their process going to win every game? No, that's just impossible. It doesn't happen. But more often than not, if we're looking at the numbers, that process has worked really, really well. And it worked this weekend. They stuck to what they do, and it worked. And so I think the mental toughness, the commitment to knowing who they are and what they're about and what this program is about, they just never seem to lose who they are and what they're about. And I think that, younger teams sometimes could probably get caught up in the emotions of a moment or a game or a tough week or whatever it is. But this is not a as this team is constructed, this is not a team that is going to have the mental ebbs and flows. They know what they are. And I think that's really important this time of year.
There are plenty of people that have made a difference in this year's team. And we've talked about leaders and that sort of thing. What is the best remedy for left field? Because right now, that's the big question mark. They've tried Topher Jones, didn't work particularly well. And they've tried multiple. But what do you think the best thing? I think Luke Romine getting the base hit the other night maybe open the door for him in the future, but that's first base. That's good news for next year. Right now, going forward, specifically in Auburn this weekend, what's Ole Miss going to do in left field?
I mean, that's like the only real huge question, right? And it's, I think Topher Jones can be a really good player, but his at-bats were pretty non-competitive over the weekend. I think that, if we're talking about like the unlikely heroes, this would be a hell of a time for Daniel Pasella to come in and get something, I mean, that's we've heard all year about what a great teammate he is and how much that they love him. And like, we've seen the production. I mean, this is a guy who's hit a ton of home runs in his career. And again, it hasn't looked the way he wanted this year, but by all accounts, he has just had this great attitude. I mean, if there was ever a moment for him to do something special, it would be here. I think in a perfect scenario, you give him a shot and he comes through. Because I mean, that's definitely been that's a tough spot in the lineup right now. Because we saw this week, this weekend they're getting guys on base, but they're not having super competitive at bats right now from left. So I think in a perfect world, you get just something special from Pasella. If not, I think even just the potential of his at bats is probably your best solution right now.
We've seen Judd Udemark play every position, and now, as well as he's playing third, and some of the plays that he made over the last couple of weeks, I think has really been good. And I think not enough people are talking about his fielding, because that was not a position to where he was particularly, pleased. I think comfortable, I think is the right word. Braden Randall is, to me, someone that should be in the lineup somewhere. Right now, he's a designated hitter. And this is just me spitballing here, but I think Colin Reuter, to me, is someone that has really swung it about as good as anybody. Is there a place for Colin Reuter and Braden Randall in the lineup at the same time? And can you do anything that won't just blow the system up, in your opinion?
It's tough. I mean, you would, again, if one of them could play left field, that'd be awesome. But, this isn't the time of year you really want to be experimenting with those sorts of things. And, if Owen Pena wasn't playing such an incredible shortstop, you could say, okay, well, Randall can play short, but Owen Pena has been absolutely incredible. I mean, some of the plays he made in the regional were just, I mean, listen, we knew this guy was talented. Again, one of the highest rated recruits Mike Bianco's had. And, you're kind of waiting for it. My goodness, he has been incredible defensively over the last few weeks. So, but again, he's had good at bats lately. Again, it'd be great if you could get one of them in left. I just don't think this is the time to be trying that. It's going to be tough because we know Mike Bianco likes to play matchups with DH, and that's why we see both guys in there in certain situations. But I mean, if in a perfect world you'd be able to get both of them in, but I don't know. And again, I know that Reeder can catch, but you can't take Foley out. He means so much to this team too. So they have a lot of pieces, and just not, if this was if a lineup could be 10 guys, they would be set. But unfortunately, there's not all the pieces fit quite right, and so it's going to be up to Mike Bianco to figure it out. But I agree. I think that they both offer something that makes this team better.
If you look at the SEC as a whole, and I've really enjoyed following your social channels, specifically X. He's at Michael L. Katz, writes for the Daily Journal. This year's college baseball, to me, Michael, has been some of the most riveting television that I've seen in my career of covering the sport. And I don't know if it's because, you've got so many extra games. I mean, so many last-second heroics by people that maybe are names we haven't heard throughout the season, teams that, for goodness sake, there's a Troy and Little Rock super regional. What have you thought about this postseason? Do you like the format of the postseason? Would you alter anything? To me, it's been really, really fun television.
I mean, it's I know that the first weekend of March Madness gets a lot of hype, and rightfully so. But man, you can't tell me that what this weekend was college baseball wise was any less than what we get on the first weekend of March Madness. I mean, again, we've got Little Rock and Troy playing for a shot in the College World Series. 3 Trojan teams, by the way, of the final 16, including my sweet USC Trojans, took on an SEC team. But
USC, by the way,
yes. But I mean, I think what's crazy too is I thought about yesterday, Oklahoma walking off Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech. You got walked off at home. There's just the scenarios are just kind of crazy. You can not have the final at bat in a home game. I mean, I love it. There was, again, a lot of huge upsets. Again, UCLA and Georgia Tech both losing. I mean, that's incredible. All the national seeds that went down, again, the 4 seeds advancing. I think that, this time of year, for people who aren't super in the weeds on college baseball, and I know not everybody is, because it's maybe not as accessible as college basketball, though it's getting better. I think that if you are an unbiased person watching college baseball for the first time, you just want to see good, exciting stuff. And this weekend was, I mean, this had everything. If you didn't like college baseball before, I feel like you've probably said, hey, I think I want to watch next weekend too.
We have the ability to look ahead at the bracket. If Ole Miss is matched up against North Carolina, which will be a difficult out in Omaha if it were to face them. But at that point, you got 8 teams, and it's just kind of, no holds barred at that point. Oddly enough, I also want to point out that Ole Miss will be the only team in the SEC on that side of the bracket. I know you've had a chance to look at the bracket in Omaha. Is there a team that's kind of jumped out to you that would be a leader in the clubhouse? As crazy as it's been this year, we kind of talked about from a national scene with Georgia Tech and UCLA, my 2 teams that I actually thought could win it all. They're not even going to be there. Is there a team that kind of jumps out to you that you're like, yeah, I'm going to be watching them to see? I think there's a chance they can win it all.
For me, it's so much of Omaha is your pitching, right? 4 years ago, we saw an Ole Miss team that nobody thought was going to be anywhere near Omaha when the bracket came out. They rode incredible pitching and obviously some really good hitters too, right? I think Ole Miss has a chance to do that this year because of the pitching. Auburn's pitching is incredible. They are, I think they lead the SEC in ERA. I don't want to sound biased, but USC's got really good pitching too. Yeah. That's, their hitting is a little hit or miss. But I think if you got them into that 18 tournament and you've got 2 or 3 really good starters, you're in a really good spot. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is a team that if the things broke right, I think they could make some noise. But like you said, I mean, it's who the heck knows? I mean, we are literally going to have a Troy or a Little Rock in the College World Series this year. I mean, that's incredible. It's exciting. Who knows how it looks, but I think that the teams who have strong starting pitching are probably in the best spot. And, look at Georgia Tech had some of the best offense we've ever seen. And, they just not quite enough pitching. They brought in their Friday night guy last night to close it out, and he couldn't do it. And again, I know that these winner take all games are weird and you're kind of running low on pitching, but that's what this year is all about, is do you have enough depth to make it through if you have to play extra games? And I think those are the teams that, to me, feel like they can do something.
The SEC teams left as we kind of move on here is Ole Miss against Auburn. The regional I'm looking forward to watching is Georgia and Mississippi State. I think that's going to be a fun regional. I think either one of those teams not only could win they're the supers. I think either one of those teams could win the national championship. I think they're both very talented. And then you've got Alabama kind of hanging out there. Am I missing anybody else, Michael, that's left? That's five teams left. I don't have my bracket in front of me. Alabama's a team that we saw up close and personal in the last series of the year. And, I think, to me, may have one of the best coaches in the SEC. I think he's done a really good job. Before we get out of here today, I want to ask you about the comments Butch Thompson made. And even if you haven't seen them, it's been kind of the common comment from some of the coaches around the world of college baseball, the regional setup. And he's talking from a development. I don't know if development's the right word, but I think safety maybe for the pitchers. And I mean, it's obviously very tight, Michael. And we're going to see people coming in from short rests. And there's obviously, Dylan DeLucia was not the same after the short rest. I mean, I do think there's some validity to what Butch Thompson is saying. Is there any way to fix it? Is there any way to give, without taking the decisions out of the coach's hands, is there a way to modify this regional schedule so it's a little more conducive to pitchers and arms?
I mean, I think that with any sort of playoff formatting, there's always going to be something. I think that at this point, it kind of is what it is, right? And you just try to weather the storm. I mean, it's not like in Major League Baseball, you can increase the roster size and bring some pitchers up for the minors, right? Like you don't have that ability to do that. So I think it's tough. Again, I don't love the idea of taking the decisions out of coaches' hands, because I think that's what so much of this time of year is. It's the chess battle. It's being able to win the decision making. So. And then, I know that player safety is obviously the most important thing, but this time of year is also about like the guys who just find a little something extra in them, right? Like they give an extra inning, like what Hudson Calhoun was able to do over the weekend, being able to come in 2 days in a row. I think he pitched like 3 innings that first day and came in and had to close out that game against Nebraska. Like, Walker Hooks has been counted on for a lot of innings this year. I think this is just like this time of year. It doesn't always work, but this is when you find guys who just have a little extra in the tank. And, does it always work? No. And do injuries happen? Yeah. But I think injuries are going to happen any time of year. Yeah. It's you're probably putting a little bit more stress on the body when you're asking this much of guys. But, that's what the postseason is. And I think that if you ask players, like, they want to go out there in those moments. I don't think a player is going to be like, no, coach, I don't want to go out there. My arm hurts. Like if coach says, hey, can you do it? They're going to want to do it. So, I don't know if there's a perfect answer, but to me, it's hard seeing the format change. I think you just have to sort of live with it.
Michael Katz does a wonderful job at the Daily Journal. And Michael, I have to give you a bit of a hat tip here, one of the best long-form journalists in the business. And if you don't mind, can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek of your storyboard at least for the next week or so when it has for Ole Miss baseball? Can you give everybody out there a little bit of thought process about what you're thinking about, what might be coming from you during this magical run?
Yeah, it's unfortunately I wasted one of my big bullets, not waste, but used one of my big bullets last week on my Cade Townsend feature, which I love how that story turned out. It
was wonderful,
interesting to see. I'm a visual learner, so to have him hold the baseball for me and show me all those things was just so cool, and I really appreciated that. There's I think so much of it is going to depend on, if they make it to the College World Series, there's going to be some heroes from this weekend, right? There's still some heroes from this past week. We're going to get to talk to some of them. So still trying to workshop and storyboard some things, and there's also travel trying to get through that. But there's something good coming. I'm still trying to storyboard it.
Do you like Ole Miss's chances against Auburn, or do you think they've kind of got their backs against the wall on this one?
They're two kind of similar teams, honestly. Yeah. In terms of, you've got two or three really good starters on both sides. They do steal a lot of bases, which is causing havoc on the base pass has not always been great for Ole Miss. I think they've got one guy with 30 steals and another with 12, something like that. So you've got two guys who can do things. Trace Freilich is one of the best catchers in the country. That being said, I'm not counting out an Ole Miss team with the pitching they have and the type of veteran hitters they have. Do they strike out too much? Yes, and Mike Bianco will tell you that too.
Yep.
He's not. He will be the first to admit that they have a lot of holes in that respect. But you also have a lot of guys who can get on base. And if you run into one and it goes a long way, that's obviously great. But we've also seen this weekend, and yes, they did leave a lot of guys on base, and that has been a big problem this year. But when it's really mattered, they've figured out how to get runners home. And we saw that against Arizona State in both games. Again, with Dom Decker's walk-off and his sacrifice fly, and Braden Randall in the 14th with his walk-off single. It isn't always pretty and it's not always perfect, but they have gotten it done more times than not this year. So, on paper, yeah, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be tough playing at Auburn. But listen, I was in Hattiesburg a couple years ago against, saw them play a really good Southern Miss team in the Super Regional, and Ole Miss figured it out because they had really good pitching and some clutch moments at the plate. And this feels like a team that could do similar things.
He's Michael Katz. Follow all of his work at the Daily Journal at djournalsports.com. Or, of course, follow him on X at Michael L. Katz. And I can assure you there's a great story right around the corner. Michael, appreciate you joining us today as our show live from Swayze continues.
That was Brad Logan and Michael Katz previewing the Auburn Super Regional this weekend. Ole Miss and Auburn played the first of their 3-game set if needed. It needs to be 3 games. Ole Miss or Auburn could sweep the first 2 and get it done. But the first game on Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Central Time. And coming to us now from Swayze Field is Brad Logan. Hey, Brad, how you doing, bud?
Good afternoon, everybody. Just had a chance to visit with Mike Bianco, heard from Hudson Calhoun, Walker Hooks, and also heard from a couple other players, and it was all about confidence. Dom Decker was one of those, and ask about what it means to be a team player. And I think one thing this team is they played together throughout this entire postseason. Mike made mention at the post game, the win over Arizona State last night, about how this team would rather bust than fly. I think there's obviously some gamesmanship there, but it just goes to show you that this team really, really is a team. And there was a good question asked today about the cohesiveness of a team and about how well they play together. And Mike said there's a lot to that, especially in the world of NIL and in the world of how it's always – I think baseball it's my opinion here, baseball is kind of the last resort for the world of NIL in regards to cohesiveness. This fan base can really gravitate towards players. And I've kind of personally gravitated to Braden Randall about how well he's come on late in the season. And so many have gravitated to Dom Decker, who Jake Ramada pointed out on X that he was the person that was on the team that knocked Ole Miss out last year, the Supers, and now he's on the team that could catapult Ole Miss to Omaha next couple of weekends. So big task at hand against Auburn. But I really like the way that Mike answered the question about how, kind of going back to the original point of how this team has embraced NIL, but they also understand the importance of playing together as a team, how Cade Townsend was completely empty, and how Hunter Elliott could have come back on Monday to throw that game, by the way. We learned that today that Hunter Elliott was going to be the guy if they had to go to Hunter Elliott on Monday. That obviously didn't happen. Ole Miss did what they needed to do against Arizona State. I asked Mike about the sixth inning, about how could that be a moment that catapults this team. And, he answered it pretty much. Every season has moments, and that obviously was a special one. We saw Taylor Ray took the monitor, the device, to his ear because it was so loud. And we just saw Mike walk out to him and say, just turn the volume up. And it was a great moment. It was a very, very festive crowd in Nebraska. At the end of the day, Ole Miss runs roughshod through the Nebraska Regional. They're headed to Auburn in a very difficult regional. The times came out earlier today: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sunday's not announced yet. Friday's at 7 o'clock. Sunday is at 3 o'clock Central Time. It's going to be quite the scene in Auburn, Alabama. And quite frankly, Ben, I think Ole Miss has got as good a chance as any against the Tigers. They pitch it really well, but they're obviously played a whole lot more games. They've thrown a lot more innings than Ole Miss has, and they had to claw their way through their own regional, beating the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee last night.
Let's hear from Mike Bianco now. This is Talk of Champions.
Best. Right. Mike, what can you say about your bullpen this weekend?
Yeah, they obviously were terrific. May have been your tweet, something. I retweeted that. Whatever the stats were, check out your Twitter feed if we're looking for those stats. But no, they were terrific. But like they've been most of the year, and I think sometimes when you just look at a snapshot, sometimes when it's sometimes you just see some of the warts. We say that a lot about our team, because we're looking at them every single day, but everybody has issues, everybody loses, everybody has some negative things. But man, our guys have been really good, and you were just talking to two of them, with Hooks and Calhoun. But yeah, they were terrific. I heard some questions about Libert. Obviously, I thought that was huge, and I think in a regional. Really anywhere in postseason, we mentioned it to the team that you need your stars to be stars and to show up. And this is not just to the bullpen, but the team as a whole. But you also need some other guys that maybe were a different role, but now have that star-like weekend. And certainly we had that this past weekend, and several in the bullpen with Libert. I thought JP was terrific, and so they were outstanding.
Butch has created a lot of discussion wanting 2 out of 3 series before the College World Series for arm care purposes, and that's kind of how y'all's season is built off of. You have an opinion on that?
Not really. I get it. I try to stay out of that too much, and I understand it, but I also understand the other part of it, to where it's really hard to keep pushing the season back. There's a lot of these great ideas, but all of a sudden, when you start to get deeper into July, and what about that? What about that length? And so again, I understand it. I understand the point of it. We've changed it over years, so it doesn't mean that it can't change. We went from 48 teams to 64 teams. We went to the super regional format. Is it time to change again? I'm sure if there's enough opinions that want to do that, but I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I get it. I wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't fight it. But I also, it's tougher when you do that. I think, I've heard so much about this weekend and how exciting the fans thought college baseball was this weekend. But I understand his point as well.
How do you kind of handle the portal being open while you're in the middle of all this?
Like you would think, but laughs. Obviously the assistant coaches yesterday we're on the phone and doing, what we do. And they will work up until the point that we leave. It's part of, what's happening, now in college athletics. It's, this isn't to blame anybody particularly, but it's just not the smartest thing. I fall short because all these cameras say it's dumb, but why this is happening now and why it closes before the draft, it just makes no sense. But in defense to the people that make these decisions, there's a lot more sports out there than baseball, and so I'm sure this will get corrected at some point where we won't have these conversations and you won't be talking about teams playing for the national championship that fall behind recruiting. The window is not where it's supposed to be, but it is where it is. And so, we got to continue to do that.
There are many moments during the season that kind of pave the way for that season, and it just feels like that moment in the sixth inning was big for you, Coach. And it kind of reflect back to that and just how big that was in the win over Nebraska that kind of allowed you guys to win the regional.
Okay, so we're going back to I'm trying to follow. So the
I'm just curious.
Nebraska game, you didn't say that sixth inning we're talking about. I'm not trying to make fun. It was huge. So we're Rabe and the way he handled the situation and there's moments. You're right. If you had to pick a moment of the whatever we played, I'd easily say 27, but it wasn't 27 innings. But the 30-plus innings that we played, the most pivotal was that one, and not just because of where you were. Like you win this, you're 2-0, and you're in a driver's seat, and on the road, as electric as that crowd was, but fortunately, we had an ace on the mound, at that time, and those are, sometimes what we say stars have to be stars, and then you need some other guys. Well, we talked about the other guys, but he's certainly one of our stars, and he answered the bell. We not sure if we get through it without his effort.
That was really good stuff from Mike Bianco. This is Talk of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. He's Brad Logan coming to us from Swayze Field. You heard Brad ask that question of Mike in regards to the sixth inning against Nebraska. Brad and Michael Katz also touched on that, what a big swing of momentum it was, and kind of carried Ole Miss through the Lincoln, Nebraska regional to advance to a super in Auburn with a 3-game sweep of the Lincoln regional. I'm curious, Brad, do you think it's going to be Hunter Elliott on Friday? There was a whole point of contention about whether or not they'd go with Hunter or Taylor Rabe to start the regional. It's a little bit different format, though. This is more traditional, and I would expect it to be Hunter, but I'm curious, who do you think it's going to be?
Yeah, I think I expect it to be Hunter as well. He made mention, as we said a moment prior to the press conference airing on the show, that Hunter was going to go on Monday. So if Hunter was going to go on Monday, I fully anticipate Hunter Elliott being the man on Friday when they have first pitch at 7 p.m. at Plainsman Park in Auburn. One thing that we heard from Mike there, and we talked about a little bit before it was aired, was big-time players make big-time plays. And I asked Walker Hooks this about how the team kind of plays together and how this team has each other's back. And Dom Decker kind of mentioned it as well today. But I thought it was interesting because each one was asked by Michael today about what goes into preparing for just craziness in a regional. And to be fair, Ole Miss had probably the least amount of crazy of any team in the regional. They went 3-0 or 2-0, whatever, went 3-0, and they win and they're done. But like an Auburn didn't. They lost their first game. They had to claw their way back. Their pitching staff was a mess. Now, they do pitch it as well as anybody in the country. So that's one thing to be mindful of going into the series. But their series ended last night late. So they've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before they're playing on Friday. Ole Miss finished a day earlier. Ole Miss finished not burning near the pitching staff that they have. They'll have every bullet in the gun ready to go against Auburn. I expect it to be Hunter Elliott. It'd be great if he could go the whole way. If not, you could obviously have Hudson Calhoun, and then you finish with Walker Hooks. I mean, that's a perfect scenario. Once again, it's a 3-team play. It's not a 2-team play, not a 4-team. So 3 games, you get 2, you're off to Omaha, and then I was having a conversation with some of the media guys in there earlier. If you get to Omaha with the bracket that Ole Miss has, I mean, what else is there, Ben? I mean, I think it's a great opportunity because in Omaha, we talked about in super regional play and regular regional play, getting to 2-0 is the key, obviously. Super regional 2-0, you win, but regular regional, you get to 2-0 and it's kind of, see where everything falls. In Omaha, you win that first one, you rest for I don't know how long. Then the losers fight it out to see who's left, and then you kind of go from there. The key to Omaha is winning that very first game. So depending on who it is or what time that would be, but that's the key. But obviously there's a lot of water to get there that's got to travel under the bridge to get to Omaha, but not a whole lot of water because you have to win 2 in a very difficult spot at Plainsman Park. Once again, I like Ole Miss's matchup. They have not faced each other, which is interesting. Mike was asked today what he thought about Auburn, and he just basically said, I don't know. We haven't watched a lot of Auburn baseball. We've seen Auburn a lot, but it's playing somebody else, and obviously we were worried about the other team and not Auburn, which is rightfully so. They've not faced each other at all this year, which is interesting with 2 Southeastern Conference teams meeting in the Super Regional.
Yeah, but it's a really good point. It used to be in the old days that, of course, Ole Miss would have played Auburn in the SEC West in baseball. This year, SEC being what it is and how big it is, 16 teams, Auburn and Ole Miss didn't play. So it'll be a matchup of an Amory product at manager and Butch Thompson in Auburn, and Mike Bianco, who's been leading Ole Miss baseball for 26 years, looking to punch the 3rd ticket in his tenure to Omaha in the Auburn Super Regional this weekend. We're going to hear from some players here in just a second. Before we do, I want to answer some questions from the chat, specifically a couple that have mentioned or asked about a potential recruiting show. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time, Zach and I will be live for the recruiting show. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you. You're not the first one, Trip 489545, to ask in the chat today about the next recruiting show. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central Time, right here, the Talk of Champions, YouTube, Twitter, at Spirit Ben, at Brad Logan TOC. You pick it. That's where you'll be able to see it. We'll be doing our live recruiting show, breaking down the commitments. It's been a big week. Over the weekend, Ole Miss picked up commitments from 4-star linebacker Jeremiah Culpepper, 4-star wide receiver Miguel Whitley, 4-star edge Marvin Gutsup, and I don't think they're done either. Now, this is a little bit of a teaser, but one player that I've heard Ole Miss, or to keep an eye on in regards to Ole Miss specifically, 4-star running back Trey Martin. So if David Gabriel George, who went to Ohio State this weekend, who was a Ohio State lean going in, was locked up or still trending that way, there's a name along with Ty Keys, who visited over the weekend, that Ole Miss has a lot of interest in, and I hear is on the precipice of potentially landing. That's 4-star running back Trey Martin. Ole Miss, Florida, Alabama, LSU, a lot of offers. So be on the lookout for that. The recruiting show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Let's now hear from the players as they set the stage for the Auburn Super Regional this weekend. This is Talk of Champions.
Yep. Going over, guys. I guess the same question I asked Walker with Liver and every year he's had. What was it like kind of watching him over the course of Sunday night, those 3 innings?
Yeah, it was awesome. I was down there in the bullpen with him, seeing him warm up, and he kind of knew that he was ready for this moment. He's been one of my best friends this entire year, and I know it's been really hard on him, especially when you know you're really good, which he is. And we all know it too, and he just hasn't had the success. But to go out there and do that for us, especially when arms are a little tired, it was massive for us, and then helped us win the regional.
Didn't get to talk to you, but Sunday morning obviously had to come back and warm up for what y'all hoped was just 8 inning. Have you ever had to kind of have a weird warm up for that short of I guess you'd call it a game?
I mean, it was kind of funny because Joel, we all thought he was like nervous or something for the 1 inning because he was making us all warm up for the game. He was like, I just want you to treat it like a normal game. So he put me in yellow, which is our little code, like 2 hours before the game. And I'm like, all right, so like we warm up, like this is acted like treated like it's a real game. And it ended up working out because I was normal that routine. It wasn't like, throwing right before the game and then, I'm in the game. So he kept it normal, which I think helped us out a lot.
Pano got that last out behind you Sunday morning, then made those plays Sunday night. How have you, as a pitcher, seen him kind of grow as a defender back there this year?
It's been absolutely awesome to see him grow because shortstop's such a vital position for us because it has to be the best defender on the field, and he's grown into that. You always knew he had the talent. You always knew he had the confidence, the swagger, everything about him. He's awesome, and to see him playing like this at just an All-American level has been great for us.
This time of year, it's all kind of all hands on deck pitching-wise. How do you guys not stress out and just sort of just enjoy it all?
I mean, this is like what we come to do. Like, this is what we love to do, is play baseball, especially in these environments of playing like Nebraska, which was awesome. every time you go out there, you have to realize that, like, this is what you worked for. This is the opportunity that you've gotten, and the coach is trusting you. So it takes a lot of pressure off you. It's not, oh my, like, I have to succeed in this situation. Of course you want to, but, like, it's an opportunity. It's not a danger. It's not a threat at all going in these situations. It's an opportunity.
Appreciate that.
Thanks,
Thank you.
We'll be all right.
You need a fall?
Yeah. There you go. That's perfect. Go whenever, guys. How many would you have had in you Monday if it was necessary?
I have no idea. As many as it took, I guess. But yeah, I mean, that was a good thing we didn't go to Monday.
What are these all hands on deck weekends like? I gotta imagine it's got to be pretty exciting and nerve wracking.
It's fun for sure. You know, you just because you never know who's gonna pitch when or how long they're gonna go, and so you just throw people out there and then see if it sticks, I guess. And then we just did a really good job of managing who was gonna throw in what innings, and then finishing the weekend out with a good bullpen. So.
How'd you feel Saturday morning? I think that was your longest one this year.
Pretty sore. So I got over there, start throwing a little bit, just to see how long, you know, maybe if I could come back that night or the next day and just, yeah, but no, for sure, just sore.
What was it like watching Libbert with the year he had give you guys those innings there on Sunday?
Libbert, he was awesome. You know, just really happy to see a guy like that go out there and just do big things, especially in that moment, and just to, you know, it's a great game.
With the season as long as it is, it's a lot of highs, a lot of hope, a lot of lows. The composure of this team has been really interesting to watch. How you kind of walked into a team that had a lot of leaders. How's it been, and how have you guys manufactured or dealt with the highs and the lows?
So just this whole year, Joel's been preaching to us be the same guy every day in and out of the field, and so, I mean, you can't let the bad days affect the good days, and let the good days or like ride that high too long, and then, you know, then the lows affect everything else. So. You know, it's just been fun to watch everybody be able to keep their composure over these long seasons, whether the highs or the lows, you know. And so, yeah, it's been good.
What are the next few days going to look like? Is it any different from the regular season, maybe?
Since I guess it's like a normal series this weekend, I think we're going a little bit earlier, which is tomorrow. So I guess we'll get a good practice in, and then just treat it like it's been an SEC series all year.
You know anybody from Auburn?
So I played with their second baseman, Chris Rembert, for like 3 years in summer ball, so it'll be cool to play him. And then Bub Terrell, which is from Mississippi, so I've been playing against him since I was 8, so it's going to be really cool to see them.
That was Walker Hooks. I was muted, good thing, and now I'm talking quieter because I don't want to blast y'all's eardrums whenever y'all come back from audio playing. There was a question in the chat from JBL104. Dom Decker talked as well. Maybe we'll be able to get to him shortly. About to go back to Brad, who's live from Swayze Field. What's up with the volume? Can barely hear them. It's just very quiet in there. Everybody's talking like church mouses. Got to get us a mic specifically for those live hit interviews, and we're going to do that for you guys and make sure that volume is better. But that was Walker Hooks, and you also heard from Hudson Calhoun, Mike Bianco, as well. As I start to raise the volume of my voice back to a normal level, at least for me. I'm Ben Garrett at Spirit Ben on Twitter. This is the QR code for the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, and affiliate of On3. Sign up today as a new member by scanning this code. You get half off an annual subscription, and we're not, you know, just stopping talking about this super regional coming up with this one podcast. We do it all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, and also touch on Kewan Lacey as we hit on to start the show, being the cover athlete for College Football 27, one of 3 on both covers. Only 3, and Kewan is one of them on both of those covers. What an incredible accomplishment for him, considering also how little his former head coach did to really publicize his incredible accomplishments last year, including setting a new single-season rushing record, replacing that of Quinshon Judkins, who left for Ohio State. Kewan Lacey, rocket ship. He's RB1 for the 2027 MLB draft. Trinidad Chambliss, they've already come out with like this little design graphic deal for the campaign with a cool mixture of Heisman's, with a 6 for Trinidad and a 5 for Kewan Lacey. So Ole Miss is going all in. It's no longer about one cult of personality. It's about the we. It's about everybody, and leading that way in many ways is Kewan Lacey. But we're going to get a mic for you guys so we can make sure y'all hear those even better as I bring Brad in. Look at Brad showing you. There's the Heisman. There's the Heisman. It's pretty fancy.
Yeah, it is. Like it's very fancy. And yes, I was as close as I could get. I've got a new mic, but Mike Bianco does this with his hands, and I didn't want to pop his hands to the mic. So anyway, we'll try to do better. Normally we have it pretty close, and it's not. Hey, look, we appreciate the feedback. We like the feedback, and it helps us a lot. But big podcast coming tomorrow. It's kind of inside baseball. Get you all caught up on recruiting here on the Talk of Champions. I'm headed to Auburn, so we'll have full coverage. Not sure what it looks like yet in regards to pregame and postgame, but we'll have all of every game covered in Auburn, Alabama. Just talk with Kyle Birnbauer about parking and credentialing and all that good stuff. So I'll get with Ben and Jake, and we'll get a game plan together, and we'll want to make sure and have full coverage for you guys from Auburn, Alabama. I'll be there. Jake, I think Jake's going for more of the journalistic side of things. I'll be there more from the video side of things, kind of getting you guys some sights and sounds inside Plainsman Park. Also, post-game analysis. We'll have the post-game show, plus we'll have post-game interviews with players and coaches. Wall-to-wall coverage is what I like to say. We want to bring Plainsman Park to you. I think the ticket's going to be tough to get. It's going to be a tough ticket. So we want to make sure we bring Plainsman Park to you. Be sure to use that QR code and join us over on the Ole Miss Spirit. At SoWinSpirit.com, that's an affiliate of On3. You can hear from Chuck. You can hear from Jake. You can hear from Zach and Ben and all of the cast of thousands over there that are rocking and rolling and talking about Ole Miss all day, every day. So, you just heard from Walker Hooks and Hudson Calhoun. What I like more than anything, Ben, is there's a confidence there, but it's also a quiet confidence. You wouldn't know if they were playing Southern Miss in a non-conference game or Auburn in a super regional or Georgia in the national championship. It feels like they're very monotone. They don't get too high, don't get too low, and I think you need that going into a monster series like this in Auburn.
No doubt about it. And headlines to take us out, Ole Miss headlines specifically to take us out. I'll hit on one. I'll throw one to Brad, and we'll keep going until they're done. Number one for me, or number one for Brad, was this whole super regional coming up. So I wanted to get real quickly as the first headline to get us out. In your opinion, on Tuesday, you can change between now and then, and we're going to do post-game shows, and maybe I'll watch the ninth inning with y'all and then go to Brad and them at the stadium. I don't know. We haven't figured that part out yet. We'll figure it out. But first and foremost, what is your way too early prediction? It's not even that all that early, but your Tuesday prediction for Ole Miss in the Auburn Regional. Super regional.
I think Ole Miss wins in 3 games. I think Ole Miss wins the deciding game on Sunday. I don't know if it'll be the afternoon or the evening. I just think Ole Miss right now is playing really well at a very high level. Nobody's really talking about it much because it's more outside baseball and not inside baseball. I truly believe playing in an environment like Swayze behind me, playing in an environment like Nebraska, that 6th inning, what Ole Miss is able to do, and then going on the road, I think that's going to play well for Ole Miss when the chips are down. I think Ole Miss wins in 3. Here's my hot take, if you will. I might start Taylor Rabe on Friday, as good as he's pitching. I know that you're shaking your head. I would start Taylor Rabe on Friday night and get to 1-0, and then you have a full covey of arrows to go for the remaining 2 games. Again, Mike's going to start, and he's a lot smarter than me, but I'm just some dude that likes to talk. So I would go Taylor Rabe. He's going to start Hunter Elliott, and I get it. And if Ole Miss goes 1-0, then you've got a 1-0 lead with Taylor Rabe on the mound. Hey, you could be in a lot worse scenario. So I think here's one thing that we haven't talked about very much is one thing that Mike Bianco's kind of had on his shoulder throughout his career at Ole Miss is the decisions of mound visits and pulling pitchers and not pulling pitchers quick enough. I'll give him credit. There's not been a lot of it this year, and I thought it was a really, really smart move on that first game against Nebraska when things were getting a little dicey. He very quickly went to – was it Landon Waters, Ben?
Yes.
He very quickly allowed Landon Waters to kind of, get warmed up, got hot, gave up 2 hits, bam, he's out. And so there was no meeting to talk about it. He immediately pulled him, and then Ole Miss, made the decision to go another way on the mound, and then Hudson Calhoun, I believe, closed it right. Ben, am I coming right here?
Yep.
And then they talked to
Hudson.
Hudson. Yeah, we talked to Hudson today about coming in short rest.
Hey, I was funny. I almost stopped, listening back to the Mike Bianco interview. And your question, I knew exactly what you're talking about because I talked to you every day.
He looked a hole through me, and I was like, I'm not sure what else to say. He didn't hear me say Nebraska, and I did say it, but he didn't hear me say it. To be fair, he didn't know what I was talking about. And then when he did, it immediately clicked, and he answered it. But I was like,
Mike used to do things a different way. In the old days, Mike would have gone off on Brad and just made him feel either that big or, but now he's a softer Mike Bianco. So I noticed that, but it was funny. You asked the same question to Walker Hooks, and I know you've been talking to me too much because you said so many highs and so many so many lows.
Did I say ho? I didn't know I said ho.
You did.
It's been a long, arduous year here on the Talk of Champions, and we've allowed so much stuff to stick. Before the press conference, I'm not going to lie, I went to Chase Parham of Rebels 247. I asked him a scenario. I said, "Hey, what if I ask this?" And we rocked through that because I know I'm not ready to get my head bitten off by Mike Bianco because I've seen it done before. So
he's done it to me. He's done it to me, but also he respects good questions. And even though if he thinks Mike is. I like the way Mike handled that. And it just shows a Mike Bianco that there's been real growth. There really has.
Well, before the press conference started, I had all my equipment out and all that, and everybody else just had a phone. He was like, what is this? What does this stand and all this stuff? So anyway, we had a little light moment. Maybe I kind of greased the wheel before I was going to get annihilated. But anyway, that's kind of how it went. And I think there were a lot of great questions and a lot of things answered today. But at the end of the day, you've got a huge opportunity. And Ben, if I would have told you when Ole Miss lost on the road to Arkansas, should have won the series, and that this team would be playing Auburn in a super regional with a chance to go to Omaha, I think everybody would have taken it.
Yeah, absolutely. Last couple headlines to take us out. I'll take these two and throw it to you to finish us up. I mentioned Keywan Lacey is the new cover, one of only three college football players on both covers of College Football 27. Congratulations to Keywan Lacey. What an incredible road. And I just don't want to get lost in this. Keywan Lacey, at least everyone to a man when Lane was walking out the door, everyone was asking the same question. Well, is Keywan going with him? Or some would just have complete resignation. Keywan's going with him. Not only did Ole Miss stay up all night to retain him and Trinidad Chambliss because both of them wanted to, as Brad was talking to William over there at the Grove Collective the other day, those guys wanted to re-sign it like 1 and 3 in the morning. So they got up and they drafted the paperwork and it was done. But for Ole Miss to get to this place with Keywan, knowing what the pursuit was with LSU, knowing the pressure on him, knowing the frustrations of him him feeling like he wasn't getting the recognition he deserved, which I think there was some legitimacy to that, to where he is now and the Ole Miss legend he's going to be when he leaves. I think that's a really incredible story that doesn't need to be forgotten, and a nice just little blurb about just what all went down, because it was messy all around. Like in a typical normal year, any other year, just like for Heisman bumper stickers, Ole Miss wouldn't have to be worrying about, are they going to have to compete with the championship without their head coach and their star players? Ole Miss would have been worried about making sure Keywan was in the discussion, making sure Trinidad was in the discussion for the Doak Walker, for this, for that. Now, Jeremiah Love, he deserved what he got. But the point is those guys didn't get enough recognition that they so rightfully deserve. And now they're taking their time. They are reclaiming their time. And it's not just Keywan and it's not just Trinidad. Another headline, A.J. Brown is now a New England Patriot. It was a long, poorly kept secret for months because they were waiting with the Eagles till June 1st to, quote, cut him. It's a bookkeeping issue. Waiting to June. He's now playing, though. This is the note, because I've known and covered that guy, A.J. Brown, his entire football career. I was there when he committed. I was there when every big Ole Miss event. And I can tell you, messy as it was at times with the Eagles, and as up and down as it's been for him, he's a decorated player. He's won a Super Bowl, and now he's playing for the team he's always wanted to play for. He has always said that, point blank, period. And regardless of all the other stuff and the diva nature of wide receivers in general, and AJ is not immune to any of that, I think the world of AJ Brown. He is an accomplished Mount Rushmore Rebel, and now he's getting to live out. He was already living out every other childhood dream, but now to be able to get to play for the Patriots specifically. He looked me point blank in the face when I was talking to him for his charity stuff and mentioned how the Patriots were his favorite team his entire life. He loved the Patriots, and now he gets to play for them. So congratulations to A.J. Brown, and I think you're about to see the best version of A.J. Brown yet in year 8. Yep, year 8. Last one, and I'll throw it to you, Brad, but at Maddie Marks in the chat asked, and I was going to ask you about it, can we talk about Pete telling Lane the business? What did you think of what Pete Golding had to say in now multiple interviews, not just with Chris Love on 3, but that's the most recent one, and the things he had to say about how he was never following Lane to LSU, how much he wanted to stay here, the conversations with Keith, all of that stuff. What do you make of what Pete has had to say?
I think at the end of the day, Pete was probably sitting in his office and he'd had enough. And he probably called Chris Lowe and said, Chris, let's have a conversation. I don't know that's what happened, but it looks on the surface that's what happened, because there was a lot of getting the message out without getting the message out. And that's the most we've heard Pete talk on the record about that relationship, the way that kind of transpired between Lane headed off to LSU. And we knew that Pete Golding, and if you're a member of the Ole Miss Spirits, you would know that Pete Golding has a special contract through the university that Lane couldn't do anything to Pete if he wanted to. And so I think with Pete doing what he did, with the offensive staff that he was able to keep, that he wanted, and Joe Judge being the main component of that, John David Baker coming in, I think he really likes his team. As for the article in and of itself, I'm not going to call it a shot across the bow. I'm going to call it to where a door just shut, to where I think that's Pete telling the collective college football world, and mainly Lane Kiffin and LSU, I've had enough. That's enough. We'll see you September 19th. He was asked at SEC Media Days, SEC spring meetings about the conversation, and no surprise at all, Pete handled it incredibly well. Sure, we being Lane Kiffin and I have a relationship. He texts me, I think he said, quote, 10 times a day or whatever, but he was very quick to point out, Ben, I don't know if you noticed this, I look at some of it. So I think he's very, as forward as he can be by saying, I'm excited about September 19th. I'm tired of talking about it. I love it in Oxford. I love our staff. I love our players. And I'm moving forward. That's what I took from the article. I thought Chris did a really good job. We'll hopefully talk to Chris over the next couple of weeks and kind of go a little bit more detail. Once we get past baseball, we're going full wide open to SEC Media Day. Chris Lowe will be one of those people. Trey Wallace is coming back. So we're going to get all those people back on the show once we get past baseball. But to me, Ben, on the surface, that was Pete Golding saying, I've had enough. I'm ready to talk about football.
Well said. Here is the last look of the regional, super regional. Stop saying regional, Ben. Regionals are done. Ole Miss is in a super, and here is the field. You see it on the screen, Brad. What do you touched on the field and the uniqueness of it, the craziness of it. If you had to handicap the field, how do you see this playing out? How would you predict it?
I absolutely love the winner of Ole Miss and Auburn, because if you can beat, who's to say that North Carolina wins the Chapel Hill Super Regional? But if you get North Carolina and you get to 2-0, or you get to 1-0 in Omaha, then I'm telling you, it's a great position. They avoid who I think is some of the better teams in the tournament in Alabama. I think Texas is really good. I think Mississippi State and Georgia both could win it all. I think they're very talented when they're good, when they're hot. And then Ole Miss side of the bracket. Troy, Little Rock, West Virginia. Sure, West Virginia can sing "Take Me Home, Country Roads," but can they really play baseball, Ben? They won their regional, and okay, let's play an SEC schedule. Let's play an in and out SEC schedule like some of these teams are. So, West Virginia, okay, we'll see. I love that side of the bracket for Auburn or Ole Miss, whoever wins the Super Regional. By the way, I have one headline I want to say a hat tip to, and that's former Rebel Jacob Gonzalez. Congratulations. He's doing big things for the White Sox organization. My only question is, why in the world have they waited this long to call him up? He's been red hot in the minors. Anyway, he's at the major league level now. Congratulations to Jacob Gonzalez, one of the many former Rebels that are making their way in the Major League Baseball.
He had to show that it was not a fluke, because his first 2 years he didn't hit like this. He was struggling.
That's true. He did.
The first 2 years, he has more home runs this year. 19, he might have more, but 19 last time I checked. More home runs in this single season than he had in the previous 3 years combined in the minors. He changed his swing mechanics. He's like, for him, he's always been projected at worst, and there's nothing wrong with this, but being like a utility player. Maurice Dubon, who could go play first, second, short, third, left, right, in a pinch, center, right? Everywhere but catcher, and that had real value, especially when you had pitchers and not the universal DH. And so you could have a Swiss Army knife like that. That was Jacob Gonzalez. But the hit tool, there was concerns it plateaued. And now here he is raking, but still with that positional versatility, playing first base for the White Sox. Jacob Gonzalez is going to be in the league for 14, 15 years, 16. You know, he'll play until he doesn't want to play anymore. He's Kiki Hernandez at worst. Pick your guy that you fell in love with. Your favorite utility player growing up. For me, that was Martin Prado. I loved Martin Prado. You know what I mean? That is Jacob Gonzalez, but he could be so much more now because, Brad, they called him up. Like you mentioned, he's hitting like he's never hit before in the minor league system, now the major leagues. Congrats to Jacob Gonzalez. Congrats to you, Brad, on not only getting to hang out at Swayze Field, but going to Auburn this week. And you say Auburn in 3 or Ole Miss in 3. I'm going to say I'm right there with you. Ole Miss in 3 too. And I think you kind of got me listening. You didn't convince me, but listening to the possibility. It's not going to happen. It's going to be Hunter. This is all just silly podcast stuff. But, dude, you're right. If Rabe goes out there and does what Rabe does on Friday, then you can throw Cade and Hunter on Saturday and win if you want.
And Hudson and J.P. Robertson, who, by the way, we didn't even say J.P. Robertson today. He may have pitched better than anybody in Nebraska. So they've got a ton of pitchers that they can go to. That's why maybe Taylor Rabe. They're not going to do it. But June, it's the first of the month, and we could not be happier, and we'll get to Dakota in just a moment. I want to say a special thank you to Shed Hunger of Modern Woodman of America. He can help you plan for life using a variety of tools, including life insurance, annuities, mutual funds, and variable annuities. Call him today, 662-442-4723 for more information. Tell Shed that you heard about it on the Talk of Champions podcast, a proud sponsor here on the Talk of Champions, a brand new sponsor. So let's call Shed and let's hook him up with some business today. So many of our sponsors, Ben, we couldn't do what we do, could not go on location to where we need to get to without them, and could not do what we do during football season. So we want to say a special thank you to all of our sponsors.
Dakota King says everyone's sleeping on Cal Poly. Sure. It's been a crazy start. Why can't Supers just follow regional play and be just as nuts? Let Cal Poly get out of where are they playing? Let me look at the bracket again. Pull it back up.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Country
I heard you singing. And that's the thing. Country Roads. That's a song about West Virginia. The state of Virginia, the west of Virginia, West Virginia. But you know what? I think it's totally okay that the Mountaineers, actually, I kind of dig it more than that. Like, I own that shit. Just like Ole Miss should have had Admiral Akbar as their mascot. Good on West Virginia for adopting that, because it does sound like West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home. Like,
country road.
I'm just proud of my guy Brad for just pulling out the pipes in front of God and everybody. You never know what you're going to get on a live edition of Talk of Champions. We'll be live again, not Brad and I, but me and Zach Berry for the recruiting show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time. Talk of Champions, wherever you get your podcasts. If it's in Apple Music, Spotify, wherever, search Talk of Champions, 5-star review. Go to the Ole Miss Spirit, that QR code above Brad's head. Scan it today as a new member. Try us out, half off an annual sub right now if you just try us out at the Ole Miss Spirit. And we're talking about all of this stuff all of the time. It's been fun for an hour and 15, 20 minutes with y'all. But you can do it all the time with us, because that's what we do over at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, affiliate of On3. Scan the QR code, half off an annual sub. We'd love to have you. We're going to be talking more, of course, about the Auburn Super Regional that both Brad and I, of course, we do. We're not going to pick against them now. Think Ole Miss is getting out of it, but also Kejuan Lacey is a cover athlete for College Football 27. A.J. Brown to the Patriots. Recruiting's popping off. 3 commitments over the weekend of 4 stars, and then also a 3-star commitment. Zach and I are going to talk all about that on the recruiting show. Just stay locked in with us to Talk of Champions, of course. But, man, come hang at the Ole Miss Spirit. We want to hang out all the time. So join us at the Ole Miss Spirit. Thank you, Brad. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Country Road.